Okay, everyone, good morning. Happy Sunday to you. Things are good. Celtic chalked up another victory yesterday over Hibernian. Stevie's here. Hello, Stevie.
Hamish, hello. Right, what are we going to talk about first?
I don't know, have you got something in mind?
Well, you can never have enough mugs on this channel, Hamish. And look, my wee purchase. Do you like this one? My wee purchase. Look at that. My wee purchase today for the superstore. I could another day. I know being able to give Celtic my money. But aye, honestly, I like this one. So let's just get that out of the way.
How much
There we
was
go.
it?
It was actually I think it was £6, which is quite good. I've not really got enough of these. I've got daft like Metal Gear ones and gaming ones, but I've actually not got a Celtic mug in the house. So there you go. Can you see it? Can you spot? Where's your favourite bit there, Hamish? Where's your favourite bit in that stadium?
I don't know, to be honest.
The right answer's any bit.
Okay, right. People are probably turning off, so and this is a little bit strange what we're about to do, but let's, for some reason, go back to Stevie a number of hours ago, a lot colder outside Celtic Park.
Hamish, hello. Celtic 3, Hibs 0. I'm going to keep this one very brief because it is Baltic and I just want to get up the road. I'll speak to you later on tonight, of course, on Celtic AM. Myself and Reidzo were there, sitting next to each other in the second half. A riveting experience. I'm sure Reidzo agrees, it holds the camera and everything. But it was a weird game. It was like a game that Celtic were expected to win. Thought we were going to win, and we were generally comfortable. Though Kasper Schmeichel was our best player. If Hibs took a couple of those chances in the first half, then who knows? But I think after Engel scored in the first few minutes, you knew after that the 3 points were generally safe. I think Hibs are a pretty poor side, and even when I was saying that, they caused us a bit of problems, especially down Greg Taylor's side in the first half especially. Second half as well, Kasper Schmeichel had to be alert to some efforts that they had, but still generally I felt Celtic after they got the goal to make it 2-0 was an OG, even though Celtic Park PA guy said it was a Adam Ida goal. Certainly didn't look it from where I was sitting. And then a great wee finish from Furuhashi for the third that put icing on the cake. We're now 14 clear of Rangers. Was that 10 clear of Aberdeen? Am I right? 9. Thank you, Reidzo. 9 clear of Aberdeen with a game in hand. And that puts us in a really good place, get into the game against Zagreb. I thought our best performers were actually the back row. As I said, Schmeichel. I thought Alistair Johnson was great. I thought Trusty played well too. And when James Forrest came on, what a fantastic pass he played through for Furuhashi for the third. So yeah, it was one of the games where we relied really on the goalkeeper more than anything. But all in all, very comfortable 3 points against a side that I feel are pretty poor. But after seeing it today, I think they'll probably take heart for that, and they'll go down. Certainly at the end of the season, I think there's way worse sides in the Premier than Hibs. But most importantly, Celtic got the win. Really comfortable afternoon at Celtic Park and in the sports bar. Thanks to the people that said to watch the channel and talk to us before the game. Really, really appreciated. And I'll talk to you later tonight at 10, I suppose. Bye.
I did have a message for someone, Stevie, and a guy called Steve, and he messaged me saying, just seen Stevie in the sports bar at Parkhead. He was getting a selfie with Santa.
No, I wasn't getting a selfie with Santa. I was going to try. No. I was going to try and get Reidzo a photo with Santa, but I didn't manage to get one.
I believe Steve over Stevie, I must say. But Santa was kicking about, was he?
He was. I was booing him. Not letting him forget anything. No, Santa was there. Glad to say he was dishing out goodies. I think he was getting out wee chocolates and all that at the sports bar. Hilariously enough, we didn't get one because we were the end table and then he had to rush out. But I've had enough chocolates. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Right, okay, great stuff. Glad you had a fun day. It looked very cold as well outside Celtic Park, but I thought a really good game actually. I really quite enjoyed it in terms of certainly clear-cut chances. First 10 minutes, there was 5 clear-cut chances. Our goal, Luke McCowan shot off the bar. Hibs had 2 really kind of decent chances early on in the game, so that's not 5, that's 4. But I thought it was one of those games, and good bits of our performance. I thought we moved the ball really well. Same players we've spoken about over the past few weeks were playing well. we can come on to some of them. But equally, Hibs had chances in that game, and Kasper Schmeichel probably had his busiest domestic game.
Yeah, I think credit to Hibs. Look, I said I think Hibs are a pretty poor side, and I stand by that. I think, as defensively, I think they're absolutely woeful. But to give them some credit, they actually came and had a go. There's many teams you've seen at Celtic Park. Look, Ross County the other week. There's an example. Just refused to come out their own half. Look, arguably Celtic kept them pinned in because we were that relentless against them. But I think Hibs, to be fair to them, did the homework, and like many other sides, not just domestically, but also, of course, in Europe, Greg Taylor and down that left-hand side, but that space between Scales and Taylor was just targeted, and Hibs managed to exploit it twice. And if it wasn't for Kasper Schmeichel and just some wasteful finishing, it could have been an all-round different game. I still think Celtic would have went up a few gears, but at the same time, it was really important that we got the first goal as well. But all in all, it was actually one of the decent afternoons at Celtic Park. We've been spoiled. We've had a fair few Hamish already this season, and in general over the last few, really. But overall, Celtic did well. And obviously, Hibs, without sounding patronising, as players I think they are, actually, made a game of it and made me stay for the 90, as always.
I thought they were decent enough, Hibs, as I say. I think a big part of the chances they were getting was our doing. Obviously, the one in the second half, the double save that Schmeichel makes, was Luke McCowan's kind of slack back pass, and the ones in the first half when Kukarevich, when he goes through, I think a couple of times, they were... I think they were an issue with our pressing and Hibs players having too much time to find the pass, and our backline kind of being a little bit all over the place. Brendan Rodgers spoke about that after the game. He said there was a lot to be positive about, the fact that it was a really good win and we played some good stuff, scored some good goals, could have scored more. But he says that pressing was the downside of the game, and he says he expects a lot more. But they did have chance. I mean, early on, Kuharevich goes through inside a couple of minutes, and if that, and should score, and Schmeichel makes a good save. A lot of his saves were with his feet as well. Schmeichel, he had a really good game, I thought, and he's got a new chant as well.
Quite good about Schmeichel was he just made himself big. He's got a big presence, hasn't he? A lot like his father. When you saw him, Man U in the 90s, 2000s, like he used everything to stop a goal getting in. Obviously, hands, feet, pretty much everywhere. The way that he just made himself massive. The last Celtic keeper I saw doing that was always Artur Boric. The way that he always spread himself, made himself huge. Anytime there was a one-on-one and any player going through against Boric, who remains my number one Celtic keeper ever, love him. It was always like, you always had it was one of the ones, how usually they say one-on-ones are like 50-50, like, it was always in Artur Boric's case, always felt as if it was like 60-40 in Boric's favour, and you felt that today with Schmeichel, it was like shades of that, wasn't it? Just how like imposing he made himself, and that's key to being a Celtic goalie, because what we saw as well, like the other week against Ross County, might as well stayed at home, he had literally nothing to do. But then against Aberdeen during the week, and then here, whenever he's called upon, he's just so reliable. And another key note, that is now every game in that week there, Hamish, not conceded a goal. So that'll be doing wonders for him as well, especially getting into such a tough game on Tuesday. And it's going to be a very different game to what we saw today.
Yeah, he really earned his clean sheet today. There's been games this season where, as you say, he's really not had much to do. You think back to like early on in the season. I mean, Hibs away was a game I remember where I was expecting him to be busy, and he might as well not have been there. In terms of from a goalkeeping perspective, I think he would point out that, and he did recently, that there's more to that. And just because you think he's had a quiet game in terms of saves made, he still might have had a busy game in terms of things he's had to do, movement and passing the ball, etc. Anyway, the point I'm making is that today was probably the busiest he's been domestically, certainly, and really earned that clean sheet. Number of saves with his feet. There was one in the second half from the corner that he kind of saved with his hand and then caught it on the line. And I think Hibs were claiming it had gone over the line. It was nothing like that. But as I say, I thought Hibs were good today. I just thought maybe our intensity wasn't quite there for whatever reason. Maybe that's understandable. You can't expect us to be on our game every single week. But I still thought we really played some good stuff going forward. You picked out Alistair Johnston in your post-match video, and he was just brilliant. Like, for the first goal, Johnston and Kuhn have got such a good relationship now. I mean, they almost don't... Kuhn can just cut inside and he doesn't even need to look. He just knows that Alistair Johnston's going to be running on the outside, and that the amount of times, it's something we've really developed, I think, over the past, this season so far. That's a move you see often. Kuhn cuts inside, Johnston goes in the overlap, he gets it, and that's exactly what happens with the first goal. But even other than the first goal today, there was 3 or 4 other opportunities where Johnston got to the byline. His energy is unbelievable, and he's even tackling corner flags and tackling Paulo Bernardo in the first half.
Terrific player. What a difference to last season. I said in another podcast I was on this week that one of the big differences this season in our game is, when you remember last season, there was just generally, we were all over the place, especially at the back, and a lot of that was down to Alistair Johnston. We really were disrupted by his injury when he was out at the start of the season. Then he came back and he was never quite the same, but he regained his form towards the end of it. But this season, he's been unbelievable. He really has earned that new contract. But, more importantly, the amount of goals and goal contributions that he's got this season, just from his sheer energy alone, as you're saying, his relationship with Kuhn has been massive too as part of that. But there was a moment as well, even today, like defensively too, Hamish, where I think back to the game against Rangers last season when we won 2-1, of course, around about December, getting into New Year. But Alistair Johnston had a terrible, terrible game that match. I always felt like it was exposed. And even in the 2-1 game, maybe 2-0 game, I think, wasn't it? That we beat them, the one when Matt O'Reilly scored. I think, no, it was 2-1, Dessler scored, aye. But even that game too, it felt as if, that Silva guy had the beating of him every time too. This season, his defensive game has been far better. I've not seen Alistair Johnston get rinsed a lot. And there was a moment today where there was a break in Yuan, who is no slouch whatsoever. He was bursting towards the ball, but Johnston managed to keep up with him and then played it back to Schmeichel in the first half. That's at 1-0. And that's one of the ones I actually did get up out my seat for and applauded, because it was just the concentration at that. I know, it woke me up. But no, the concentration at that point in the game, though, especially when we were on the front foot, Hamish, and he had to, he's such an attacking-minded player, so he had to then switch, and then switch on defensively, like within seconds, because it was just a long ball out of nothing after we'd been attacking. And the fact that I think Ewan had a couple of yards on him to begin with, but he managed to get back and put it back to Schmeichel. Terrific, excellent to see. And him, Nicholas Kuhn so far, as well as the captain, are up there. We are the best players this season. They've been brilliant for us. Aye, so big shout out again to Alistair Johnston. Just been excellent as the season goes on.
Yeah, that right hand side is as strong as I can remember it being. Or arguably, our two, as you say, our 2 players of the season are on that right hand side. After that, we had the McCowan chance where he hits the bar, and I just thought at that point we're really coming on to it. Like, Scales gets the ball, and a bit like last week, lofts it over. I think Maida cuts in, and McCowan nearly scores. We're not even touched on Engels, because he scores the goal, and then had a kind of decent enough game. I don't think he was the best player out there, or close to being the best, but I thought he contributed all right. Potentially got away with one, you feel, with his kind of over the ball type, one of those studs on the ankle or shin type thing.
Yeah, I did. I haven't seen it back at the game when it came up, saying it was going to VAR. Even a couple of guys next to me were like wincing when they saw it, thinking this is a red, because they seemed convinced that it was a bad one. And I know that, depending on your outlook on it, we might, against Kilmarnock, Kitati might get away with it, and that was one of the ones. I think there was an incident, wasn't there, in Tynecastle as well, I'm pretty sure. But today, I thought this was the one that was definitely going to be a red. I did think it was, to be honest with you, and I did think we did actually get away with it. Don't know if you've got the same view as me, but if that's happening to a Celtic player, personally, I'm pretty raging at it. That's a negative on it, but in terms of the positives, the Engels play, the goal, first goal from open play, that'll be doing him the world of good, confidence-wise. And yet again, I love watching this guy take corners. There's only other one corner taker that I love to watch. at Celtic, you know what I'm going to say, Nakamura did the way he delivered it every time, and Engels is going for that front post time after time, and
But they're whipped
such a
as well.
brilliant delivery. But I know that you want to come on to the tackle, and then I guess your opinion on it. But for me, it probably is a red card, and sorry to offend anyone with it.
No, that's fine. I could see it being a red, and when you first saw the tackle, and then you obviously saw that VAR was looking at it. I guess the thing I would say is, the difference between that and like, you know, your traditional ones where you see like the studs over the ball onto the shin or whatever, is that the Hibs player was like, his leg was like, and I need to see it again, but I'm pretty sure his leg was like kind of parallel to the ground, if you know what I mean. It wasn't like it was upright, so I don't really know where else Engels could have put his foot, and I think it all happened pretty quickly, and clearly there was no intent there. So I'd probably need to look at it again. I'll maybe do that for tomorrow's video, but yeah, could have been a red. Equally, couldn't have been a red. There you go. What brilliant analysis.
I know, you are going to just, what you're going to do, you're going to spend like the next day video analysing this for like 15-20 minutes, purely just to show that I'm wrong and you're right, and you're going to get all different angles from it and everything, aren't you? You're going to contact Clydesdale House and everything, send you over files, just basically to say how wrong I am. But listen, that's my opinion. Don't worry about that.
I think I'll probably spend the time looking ahead to Dynamo Zagreb, to be honest with you, Stevie. But okay, second half, we score relatively early. Joe Newell, who had struggled to keep the ball down earlier when shooting for his own team, found that knack of putting it into the back of the net for us. We looked threatening for corners, because we had that. We had Trusty had a really good header, and as you say, the delivery from Engels was great. But I don't know, seems like we've maybe got players really looking to get in the end of things. Scales clearly scored a fair few goals from corners, and you know, we need us in there as well. It looks quite a threatening thing at the moment. It's years since I feel we've been able to say that.
Yeah, I don't think we're quite at the Arsenal level in the set piece play yet, but it's been promising, hasn't it? And we've got tall guys on the team. Even Engels himself is a tall boy too, and yeah, but I think it's one of the ones that finally, when you've got half the battle is making sure that you've got a guy there who can actually whip the ball in with so much pace and ferocity that it does cause panic and confusion, and that's what you got today. That's where the goal was from. And, you know, I've noticed as well, when the ball's delivered in for Engels, right, that every time he does it, he always seems to aim for the front. And that's what you saw today when Ida was sprinting over to the front post, got ahead of the defender, number 32, flashes it across. And it's a really difficult ball to defend. And I think Adam Ida, as wasteful as he was today with his chances, deserves credit for flicking that one on, because it is it's a menacing one to defend, and 9 times out of 10, any opposition player is just going to like sort of lash it in a hurry, and this time it's been in the net for us. But at that point, you pretty much fell. The game was done and dusted, and I think Newell's had a few incidents against us where he's pretty much done his turn, hasn't he? That big game last season at Easter Road too, I think he was the guy that conceded the penalty for Ida himself to get the goal in injury time there. And I'm sure there's been a couple where he's just had a nightmare against us, but he's adding to his Hall of Shame there. But I think after that one, Hamish 2-0, despite the chances Hibs had, and you felt that they might get more. Celtic, even at 1-0, Celtic are very rarely going to be squandering winning position. So I don't really think they're going to be doing it at 2-0, and you've just got that much trust and confidence in the Celtic team that, you know, that the game was done pretty much after then.
It was, yeah, and then we started to make some subs, and again, you bring on, I mean, you look at the players we brought on today, Stevie: Forrest, Furuhashi, Yang, Bernardo and Hatate. Like, it's unbelievable strength and depth we have at the moment, and you could pick at all of those guys because they all did something. I mean, the third goal was brilliant. I mean, just like glorious watching Kyogo, the way he took that ball almost from behind him. It was just like, it was one of those that you could just watch forever. And the finish itself, I don't know if you've quite seen the finish, but it's like, it's amazing the way he just pauses that little bit and then dinks it over the keeper. I thought that was like, was that like a Larson type finish? Like so composed, like it was just brilliant.
See the touch, because it was the way that he had to manoeuvre it from behind. It was like, remember Benzema against Switzerland in the Euros a couple of years ago. I'm not comparing them. Don't worry, everybody. I know I'm not comparing the two players, but it was like that. It was that type of ball where it was behind him and he managed to flick it onto himself to his right foot. It was, by the way, see before that, what you have to realise too, the goal all comes from the tireless hard work of Furuhashi, but James Forrest as well. The two of them are pressing to win that ball back when the game's done. And then Forrest with that ball through on his left foot. Brilliant. Great pass. But the finish itself was great. And I believe even, I think it was McCann on Sports Scene when I was watching the highlights when again, they actually said it was world class. And maybe the first time I've ever agreed with him. But it was a great finish, yeah. The way that he just waited at that moment with players bearing down on him just to have the composure, just to delay it for a second, lift it over the goalie. Wonderful. Most players, as we saw today, like Ida, these chances that he had would have probably hit it first time and it's right against the goalie. But Smith, who actually felt for Hibs, had a decent game. There was no chance with that goal, and that really was just a routine winning end.
James Forrest is just brilliant for me, and I know he's kind of, I guess he's going under the radar because Kuhn, who's the guy in front of him, is having an unbelievable season. But James Forrest, for me, he's playing. I think he's playing the best football he has for a number of years, probably 5-6 seasons at the moment. And I know there's a tendency to look at him and to think he's reaching the end of his career, and I guess he's much nearer the end than the start at this stage. But he still has so much to offer in these games when he comes on, and he just looks so composed now. I just think he feels at ease with everything, and he's so experienced that he's just becoming like a player you can just put into that situation and he's going to create chances and pick holes in a tiring defence. He had a great pass for Yang, I think it was, prior to that, where he just kind of outfoxed the whole Hibs defence and played a kind of reverse pass into Yang, and I'm just loving watching James Forrest, and I think he's got so much still to offer us. And it's a joy to watch him. And Brendan Rodgers was praising him after the game big time, described him as probably the best player I've ever worked with in my career at retaining the ball on the side. And I think that is a big part of Forrest's game. Like he's so he protects the ball so he really doesn't give the ball away. Maybe when he did at times earlier in his career, but he doesn't give the ball away now. The only time he ever gives the ball away if he really tries something, it doesn't quite come off. But he's so assured in everything he does. And I think Nicholas Kuhn is clearly brilliant, and Daizen Maeda I think the world of. But I think there's parts of that they can maybe learn at times. Just protect the ball a little bit better and just really go to that top level. And I guess that's why having someone like James Forrest around is brilliant. Because Nicholas Kuhn, who we all feel is going, well, I personally feel he's going to the top, he can learn from someone like James Forrest.
Yeah, it's that winning mentality. It's not a lot of players have it. Like majority of footballers go to clubs, and obviously there's big personalities there, like club icons and legends. But chances are that at most clubs they haven't won it's undoubted that they haven't won the sheer amount that James Forrest has. I mean, his trophy haul is absolutely ridiculous. So when you've got a guy in there to learn from, it's all right, learning from players who've been club icons and legends, but the big difference is like they might not have won anything in their career at that club. They stayed at that club so long, but they haven't had that real edge to it. They haven't had the real as I say, the winning mentality is just huge from it, and there's no reason, there's no shock that why James Forrest is still at the club, is because that is just a massive part of it. Like, I remember the big moment was when he came on last season against Livingston. We were toiling in that game, and I think we were getting beat 2-1, and it might have been 2 each, but he came on and he changed the game. There's not a lot of players that would have been able to do that. Remember it was a pretty hostile atmosphere at that time. I think it was around February or March.
Cup game.
Cup game, yeah. There was not a lot of harmony, in general, and he's come on, and to be honest with you, he had so much after being at Celtic for so long, and after winning trophy after trophy. Still, he had to prove so many doubters wrong after that, because a lot of people felt he should have been away in January. A lot of people felt that bringing him on at that point was a real mistake, and is this where we are? We're, reverting back to James Forrest when instead of moving on. But he really has taken his game on to another level, and I think you credit the manager for that. He had total belief in him being able to do it, and I think Forrest himself deserves the credit. Been absolutely fantastic. And again, when he's come on, the real thing is it's not ever felt like it's like one of the substitutions where he's on for the sake of it, just to see out the game and get me another appearance for for the end of his career, to say that there's another one ticked off. He's genuinely coming on with a bit of purpose, and that's what we saw today. The drive and the pressing we saw it against Hearts like 2 weeks ago. I mean, I was saying to you when he came on as a sub, in the way that he flung himself all the way down to stop a cross coming in when we were like 3-0 up. I was like, wow. I mean, yeah, there's so many players, not just Nicholas Kuhn, there's so many that could learn from James Forrest. His professionalism, probably his approach to training is utterly spot on, 100% every day. And there's a massive reason as to why he's been around the club for so long and collected trophy after trophy. A lot of that's just down to that attitude. So yeah, totally with you on that with James Forrest. Deserves nothing but praise, and especially from myself, because there's a couple of times last season as well, even I doubted him, and he really has won me over. Not a lot of people do that, so well done to him.
I think you're spot on. His professionalism. We're so fortunate to have him and Callum McGregor, aren't we? And I know there's other players who train the right way and play the right way, but those guys are just such an amazing example of the way they carry themselves. I know this is a separate point and one you'll be on board with, but neither of them on social media either.
Yes.
James Forrest, Callum McGregor, they genuinely though they do their talking on the pitch. They're never on social media posting stuff when things are good or things are bad. They just keep themselves to themselves and do it on the pitch. I love both of them.
Yeah, I mean, that was the other one I talked to somebody else about, the fact that they don't have daft X accounts or anything like that. And,
Instagram's a big one.
Even at that, they don't. I mean, you look. I'm not going to name them. I'm not even going to name the team or the players. Not going to give them relevance. But you look at certain players who do that and talk constant on Instagram, and where's that got them? You know who I'm on about and what team they were employed by. But again, that's just symptomatic of these type of players who come in and just shout their mouth off and do all the talking on social media. And saying that, actually, I've just went and contradicted myself, because I guess we do have one, because Palma can be prone to that sometimes, but at the same time, we kind of know where Palma's Celtic career is heading, don't we?
Yeah. Right, okay, we are, as Reidzo pointed out, 9 clear of Aberdeen now, and we have a game in hand. That's all died a bit of a death for them, hasn't it? They were held by St Johnstone today at home. They've got Hibs actually in their next game, whenever that is, that next weekend. Rangers were 14 ahead of them. They play Ross County away later, so you expect them to win that, but it's just looking increasingly likely that we're going to have this league wrapped up relatively early if we keep this form up.
Yeah, undoubtedly, can't disagree. And again, it's nothing to do with arrogance, nothing to do with being entitled. It is just a fact. We are the best team in the country, play the best football, and no one can keep up with us. And it's hard to imagine the Celtic side at this point taking their eye off the ball. I just can't see it. So yeah, I think Celtic are in a very healthy place, and not only in the league, especially in Europe too. We've got a really, really strong chance of actually getting into that playoff, which is what we're really that was the aim, wasn't it? And it looks as if we've got a real chance of doing that. So yeah, and also we could be winning a cup final and as well. But I know I'm getting ahead of myself. So
big week though, big week coming up. Bad news though, Stevie. Really bad news here. Daily Record article with the headline: Phil doing the bouncy, Rodgers licking his wounds, and Ange sacked in the morning. Enter a parallel Rangers universe. A genuine headline. I know. I've just seen it there.
Is this online, or have you got a paper here? What's good? What?
This is the Daily Record online. Parallel Rangers universe. So I think we should fear that parallel Rangers universe. Just as well, it's not this universe, Stevie? As long as Celtic are winning in this universe, that's all I care about. Okay. Well, we can't end on that note. So give me something else to finish on.
Well, in a parallel universe, Hamish, me and you don't go on with each other whatsoever, and we're actual complete enemies. Oh no, wait a minute, that is real life as well. That is happening. No, honestly, cheers for having me on. I know it was a cold one at Celtic Park today. It's nice to be all wrapped up here and everything, and I'm sure you're feeling the heat over there.
32 today, I think.
What age is that?
Degrees, that would be.
I know, just wonder, what age are you these days?
We don't need to go into all that. 16, I think, according to some folk, the way they go on. Anyway, thank you, legends, for watching this video. Thank you, Stevie, for once again gracing us with your presence. Going to be looking ahead to Dynamo Zagreb from tomorrow. So let me know what you thought of the game. We'll cover some of that and then we'll look ahead to the big one.